As the poet Rumi once said, "Come, come, whoever you are welcome here." Yes, you are welcome here. No matter your age, your shoe size, the color of your eyes, your hair color, your skin shade, you are welcome here. No matter who you love or what your family looks like or what gender identities you may hold, you are so welcome here. Whether you come with laughter in your heart or tears in your eyes, you are welcome here on this very special morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Central Oregon's first youth-led service. I'm Amy Brock, Director of Religious Exploration. I use she, her, or they, them pronouns. This year has been really challenging for this community and all of our communities, but especially for our young people all around the world. As leaders, we were recently reminded by UUA Congregational Life staff that we know our young people are resilient, and yet that doesn't mean they are resistant to the impact of the challenges that we've all been faced with during this time of sickness and separation. For the folks that are part of our youth program that are not able to be with us this morning, we hold you with so much love in our hearts. We greatly anticipate the time when we can all gather together again. The youth and advisors that you'll see on screen with us today are excited to share an important story and offer all of us a chance to reflect on the power that story has in each of our lives. Thank you for being here for this important moment in UUFCO's story. And please give a warm welcome to our young people and their volunteer advisors this morning.
Good morning. I'm Tessa. I use she, her pronouns. I'd like to share a quote from Mr. Rogers this morning that reminded us of story. It says, "Frankly, there isn't anyone you couldn't learn to love once you've heard their story." Our gathering song this morning is Sia Hamba. It's number 1030 in our Singing the Journey hymnal. This version is sung by UU music director and music teacher Julia Stubbs. Sia Hamba is a freedom song from South Africa. It's a song that speaks of struggle, coming together, and fighting together. When you hear the word we in this song, know that it means a community of people who are here in person and whose bodies have passed from this earth. In African culture, they believe that the ancestors of people who have died here are very much present in those that are still living. When you hear the word march, know that it means movement together in both body and spirit, movement that is usually in the same direction. When you hear the word light, know that it represents life and healing. It is said that when we sing this song together in worship, we are inviting healing and liberation into the communities, both within and outside our congregational walls. Our ancestors are singing with us this morning to give us hope and courage on our journey.
Siahamba kukan weni kwenkos. Siahamba kukan weni kwenkos. Siahamba kukan weni kwenkos. Siahamba kukan weni kwenkos. Siahamba. Siahamba kukan weni kwenkos. Siahamba. We are marching in the light of God. 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 We are marching, marching, we are marching, marching, we are marching in the light of God. We are marching, marching, we are marching, marching, we are marching in the light of God. Siahamba kukan weni kwenkos. Siahamba kukan weni kwenkos. Siahamba kukan weni kwenkos. Siahamba kukan weni kwenkos. Siahamba, hamba, siahamba, hamba, siahamba kukan weni kwenkos. Siahamba, hamba, siahamba, hamba, siahamba kukan weni kwenkos.
Good morning. I am the Reverend Scott Rudolph, and I use he, him pronouns, and I am absolutely tickled silly this morning that we have a service that, as Amy said, is a part of our history, a part of our story as a growing congregation that is youth-led, youth-conceived, and youth-offered, and that is an exciting part of our story. We're grateful to all of our youth today, as well as our youth advisors who spend wonderful time with our youth. Here's a story. In 1961, 60 years ago, the Unitarians and the Universalists came together, and they decided that they had enough in common that they were going to join together, that they were going to create one common denomination out of these two historic liberal Christian faiths. And they became the Unitarian Universalist Association. But did you know, before all those adults got together and had all their meetings and had all their deliberations and had all their gatherings, the youth had already decided to join together. In 1953, they created the Liberal Religious Youth, and as so often happens, the adults caught up later. They looked to the youth led, the youth provided an example, and that's what we do today. We gather around our youth and we listen to their wisdom, listen to their voices. So often that is the case. The youth lead the way. We would do well to let just that happen.
I'm Stephanie. I use she, her pronouns. Please join me as I light our chalice this morning. Our chalice lighting words are by Shel Silverstein. If you're a dreamer, come in. If you're a dreamer, a wisher, a liar, a hoper, a prayer, a magic bean buyer. If you're a pretender, come sit by my fire, for we have some flax golden tales to spin. Come in, come in. Please join the UUFCO choir in singing Spirit of Life.
A warm welcome to all who may be visiting us from points near or far. If you'd like to sign up for our weekly email, please fill out the virtual visitor form, which will be available in the chat. You may also let us know where you're visiting from when the chat opens during our sharing of joys and sorrows. Opportunities this week. Monday, May 17th, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Group invite you to a courageous culture conversation, 5:30 p.m. via Zoom. The link is in the UUFCO calendar at the website. Tuesday, May 18th, join Rachel Indra in a facilitated discussion around story, this month's worship theme. Meet at 7:30 p.m. via Zoom. Please RSVP to Chayla, who usually does the announcements, at chayla@uufco.org. Saturday, May 22nd, join the Nourish team in preparing and serving lunch at Family Kitchen, 8:45 a.m. to 12:45 p.m. RSVP to nourish@uufco.org. Signups are open for donating blood on Thursday, June 3rd. The link is in the weekly email. Our art resources team is planning an event, Art on the Patio, for Saturday, June 26th. If you're an artist of any kind, including jewelry or fashion design, and would like to participate in the show, please contact Christina Ziegler. Her email is in the weekly email. Submissions deadline is June 7th. Last but not least, next Sunday, May 23rd, is our congregation's annual meeting. It will occur directly after the worship service, and we'll use the same Zoom link. Members of the UUFCO are strongly encouraged to attend, but everyone's welcome. If you have any questions about the annual meeting, or you did not receive the annual meeting materials to review, please contact Shayla at shayla@uufco.org. Blessings on your day.
So now it's time for the Time for All Ages. Today we're telling the story of the youth leading our joining of the Unitarian and Universalist faiths. Sometimes we get asked, what is Unitarian Universalism? And we do our best to try and explain this faith by saying things like,
We have 7 principles that we follow.
We care about everyone.
We talk about Jesus sometimes, but not every week.
This usually leads to more questions. So what is Unitarian Universalism anyway? This month, we've been talking about the theme of story, and today we're sharing a special story about our faith.
Once upon a time, a long time ago,
For Taylor.
Before Brittany,
Before even Dolly, there were Unitarians and Universalists.
the Unitarians in New England once believed that everything in the Christian Bible was true just as it was written. But they started to move away from those beliefs because many of them didn't believe that God was really 3 people like the doctrine of Trinity said. They also didn't believe that people were born being sinful.
The Universalists believed that if there was a God, that he, she, or they loved everyone, and not just certain people, and that this God would surely forgive everyone.
they were really, really similar, and yet they were definitely different.
One of the ways they were different was that the Unitarians were said to be cool, but not really in that way. In the way, in fact, that they were kind of uncool, as in distant and focused on content rather than connection. They were good speakers.
The Universalists were said to be warm and very welcoming. They weren't as educated as the Unitarians, but they connected with each other better because they knew how to talk about their feelings and experiences with one another. They were good listeners.
Eventually, they combined under the Council of Liberal Churches. They collaborated about RE and other things. However, from this collaboration came a deep connection from the youth.
The word youth is used in different ways in our faith. At UUFCO, we use it to refer to teenagers who are eligible to participate in middle school or high school activities. At the time, these youth were youngish adults in their 20s and 30s. However, by 1941, they included people as young as 13 and as old as 25.
In 1953, these Unitarian and Universalist youth came together to form the Liberal Religious Youth. On May 23, 1960, the adults in these faith communities followed their leadership by holding their first meeting together.
They proclaimed themselves to be a new world faith, and that would be recognized in the same way as other faith organizations were recognized. This was quite a statement because compared to other faith organizations, they were small, even when they combined together.
And they recognized that small and mighty are important too. Maybe that's where our principle about everyone being important comes from. But there was still much work to do, and there continues to be much work to do in this faith.
Our story as Unitarian Universalists begins with connection and coming together. It's a history that is different from many other faiths, and like our early youth must have recognized, there's still much work to be done, even if we are able to do it together.
I wonder what our story will be like in 10 years, 30 years, or 100 years. We have a lot of work to do to keep growing together. We think there's a lot to be learned from our Unitarian and Universalist ancestors about how to be people of faith. In many ways, our post-pandemic life will feel very much like a new world. And like those in our UU past, we want this faith to be a faith that supports us in this new world as well.
As youth in this faith, connection is important to us. When we thought about the theme of story, it reminded us of all the ways that stories have the power to bring people together or tear people apart. We'll share more about that in our upcoming reflections.
Hello, I'm Quincy. I use he, him pronouns. Please join me in the unison reading of our Children's Covenant. In this place, I am kind. In this place, I am loving. In this place, I am a friend to the earth and all animals and people. In this place, I am loved.
Our joys and sorrows are important parts of our stories. Whether you fell off your bike, lost a fight with a T-Rex, got an A on a test, made a new friend, or anything else that comes to mind when we think of joys and sorrows. This is your space to share it in. In a few moments, our chat box will be open. Quincy will be sharing a piece of music with us this morning that reminded him of our theme of story.
With the theme of story, I often reflect to how the new pandemic has become a part of my story. And when I think of the pandemic and what I've been doing, I honestly haven't been reading as many stories, although it'd be a perfect time to. I found myself immersing myself more in electronic arts. Without sugarcoating it, I'm saying video games. So in that sense, I have pulled two pieces from a video game that I particularly enjoy.
Humans make maps of stars, choosing some stars, ignoring others, to project our imaginations into the heavens. These maps shift over time, across cultures. Humans make constellations by connecting stars. Humans make meaning by connecting stories. Story to narrative to story, some blaze bright, some are faint. Most are backdrop to the great mundane human unfolding. Let us imagine the stories of our lives as the starry universe above our heads. As leaders of this congregation, we are tasked and trusted to draw constellations in this, our beloved small universe. May the stories we connect draw constellations that reflect a shared ministry that calls out the best in us. One way that I personally connect with story is through imagination. Ever since I was really young, I've been absolutely obsessed with fairy tales, fables, any kind of story that took place in a world more magical than our own. More than anything, I wanted to be the main character in a fantasy story, riding dragons and casting spells and whatnot. And as a homeschooled wild child with an even wilder imagination, I threw myself headlong into whatever storybook caught my fancy at any given time. And that's basically how I am now. Fantasy is my favorite genre because it provides somewhat of a home away from home, a place to run to and get lost in when the real world gets a little too real for comfort. And while escapism is a very personal thing, it's definitely not uncommon. And if you can find a group of people that appreciate books in the same way you do, then that's just another way that stories can become community. Being a young teen girl who's extremely introverted, it can be a challenge to make close friends. But for many of the good friends I do have, especially since we're all mostly artists and writers, our love of story is another strength in our community. We're quite literally enthralled with certain novels and TV shows and often find comfort in relatable characters and perfectly written scenes. Of course, when we talk about story, there are two meanings being used here. Written and shared stories, such as books, and personal history, the story of a person or a community. I'm focusing more on the book sense right now because that's what's meaningful to me. Books, movies, comics, any kind of media that tells a story is like a filling meal to me. I think we as humans need means of expression, and telling stories, even the frivolous kinds, is one of the best ways to do that. In fact, we're so hardwired to stories that our entire society is built off them. Humans are the only creatures that have such a complex history that we constantly take as reference. Every day we study history, learn about it, and compare it to the current world. We're obsessed with our own story. Even in the non-fictional sense, we are creatures of story. But beyond history, there's more magical stories at the root of every culture. Celtic fairy folklore, fantastical Hindu gods and goddesses, Greek mythology, and even the Bible. Every single group of people on the earth has stories, imaginative, magical, beautiful stories at the core of their community. From what we know so far, humans are the only beings who have such amazing things as histories and stories. We have the ability to imagine and the need for community, and those two things go hand in hand. When people share stories, they share connection. Imagination builds entire societies, and stories are the fuel for that, especially the fantasy ones.
When I was younger, my parents used to read me and my older brother George to bed every night. It was a treasured ritual that let us spend some time together. We started out with picture books, then moved to chapter books when I was a bit older. Books like Don't Let the Pigeons Stay Up Late and Doobie Doobie Moo were early favorites, and Harry Potter or Percy Jackson later on. They helped me cultivate my love of story, and some of the books they read me are still my favorites. A few of them are now my comfort books, or books that you read because they're familiar and they help you calm down. I think everyone has a few comfort books, and they're really important. It can be a way of forming community and a way of releasing stress. I read my comfort books a lot, to the point I could probably tell you the whole plot, so I'm always looking for new ways to connect with them. I like talking about them with my friends and looking online to see how other people use them to spark their creativity. Once an author puts a book out there to the world, it becomes the readers. The people take full advantage of that with things like fan art and fan fiction. That's how I found a podcast called Harry Potter and the Sacred Text. They look at the Harry Potter series as something sacred, which to a lot of people it is. When they say sacred, though, it isn't like a religious thing. It means something really treasured and loved. It's like a story or stories that a group of people cherish a lot and come through to find meaning. I found the idea fascinating because I've always loved learning from fiction. Reading stories about people that aren't real gives you a chance to step into another's shoes and learn people's experiences without the pressure of making a mistake. They're a way of getting the messages we might not be ready to hear from the real people in our life and being able to hear them from our storybook friends. So I looked into it. There are a few steps that they gave to making something a sacred text. You need to trust the text because you can find meaning out of it besides just entertainment. It can be hard at first, but when you do, you can find real lessons in it, even ones the author didn't mean for. You need to read it slowly and really try and soak up the text. This was really hard for me because I'm a speed reader, but I found doing this lets me connect with it on a deeper level. And lastly, you should read it with community. Having lots of people around analyzing the text is what helps make it sacred. This is partly what fandoms, or people who gather around a certain story, already do. And it's a fascinating phenomenon and something that I really love. The way I saw this done in the podcast was by choosing a theme and reading a chapter from that book with the theme in mind. I tried this on my own time, and it was really cool to connect with my story in a different way and take some lessons from it. Through sacred reading of fiction books, I can interpret them differently and really connect with some of my beloved books. I hope some of you get the chance to try it as well.
While Tessa and Stephanie talked about the introverted side of story, with podcasts and books, I'm here to talk about the more extroverted side. I'm here to talk about the importance of story as entertainment value. All of us through COVID have been missing out on our in-person concerts and our music, and throughout COVID, we've probably all found ourselves dedicating a small portion of our income to maybe another streaming service, music service, or even a podcast service.
And it's all very sensible. I can't miss out on season 9 of The Office anytime soon. But it's because the power of story and expression is so great that we end up paying our own money to find out the meaning and understanding of others. Story at its root is understanding of one's backstory, one's past, and how they act now. And with society evolving, we've come to take more abstract forms of story through performing arts, dance, acting, and even movies are all just fragments of our own history in the modern day compiled into these stories. This even holds true in the past. Shakespeare did not become famous for nothing. He was famous for tickling the soul and enriching the spirit with his writing. Stories help us connect, they help us grow, and they help us show emotion and imagination. Good stories are always something that I really connect with. There's no word that I was able to come up with that really shared the connection that we have with stories. But when you watch that one movie, read that one book, watch that one performance, you always just get it. You suddenly understand why it is so important to you. And it's all in the message, whether or not it's clear what the message is. Throughout a dance performance per se, or a classical piano piece, you may not know exactly what the composer is trying to portray, but through the emotion, through the portrayal, you can get a good sense of what they were trying to give you in a broad sense. Whether or not that message is about self-love, the absence of such, or all in between, we find a way to connect with it through our own personal experiences. Oftentimes, we like stories in the abstract, where interpretation is key to connection. But sometimes we like a good, clear picture of what we're trying to get out of a story. This is where browsing the catalog for Netflix comes into play. We've all found ourselves looking for a movie for 4 hours, and I get it. It's because you want to find that movie that really clicks with you, the one that connects. And connection with stories is really what this service is all about. Stories sometimes don't always connect with us on the physical, literal sense, though. For example, action movies and documentaries help us understand our world and connect with us by inspiring us. These stories are good passion boomers, per se. They connect with you, but in a different sense. These stories don't rehash past memories, but may inspire new paths and new lifestyles that might have diverged from the one you would have otherwise taken. They can also connect with a dream of ours. Maybe it's a realistic dream, like getting a dog after watching A Dog's Purpose. Or maybe it's an unrealistic dream that you can fantasize about, like being an Avengers member after you watch Infinity War. All movies have some way they connect with you. That's how they profit. And my personal experience is that a lot of these movies, books, and games, characters, and etc. have helped me find my own identity and helped me carve my own path in life, which is, in short, what stories are meant to do. Of course, I'll never see myself being the next Harry Potter or being the next Iron Man, Wonder Woman, but I can always be there in my own headspace at my own time, which is why I think stories are always important as a connection and as a path to imagination. Now that that's over with, please join us in singing This Little Light of Mine with the Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church in Northeast Tennessee.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light
My name is Dustin, and I'm one of the youth advisors for our middle school group, and I use he, him pronouns. I've made a living listening, hearing, joining, and witnessing people's stories. The sheer happenstances of what have brought each of us to this moment is incredible to think about. The choices that were made or not made can vastly alter each of our stories. For example, if I had not gone to an event hosted by our church and hadn't decided to return to see what services would like, I wouldn't be a volunteer zooming before you, supporting our amazing teens in our first youth-led service. I am beyond grateful for what I have learned from our youth, and I can't wait to see where each of their stories continues to take them.
I'm Jazz Halberstadt. I'm another youth advisor, and I use she, her pronouns. Working with youth has been a large part of my own story, whether it is in my job as a public school teacher or in my volunteer time with our UUFCO youth. This story of mine continues to be written, but this year there was quite a bit of editing done, as there has been for all of us. What used to be has transformed and rearranged. Large red marks or circles with X's and arrows. But the constant is the why. Our youth have had to rethink what being together means, what they value about their time together, and what they want to hold dear as we trot a new path. Their journey to find their why took a little time, just as all of us had to reframe what used to be to fit with our current reality. Witnessing and supporting this process was an honor and a privilege. Our youth had to break apart their UUFCO RE traditions, the arch, their classroom space, their hide and seek, to search for the core, the heart of their RE. They guided this program's story so that connection was our priority, the foundation, the true heart and gem they sought each week. Connection to each other and for each other, and to our larger community and world. Through discussions, games, movies, or even just checking in, we built a common story around the bonds we share together. Their story is bold, brave, courageous, but most importantly, all their own. How lucky am I to share this journey with them? There will be more opportunities to create stories with our young people in the years to come, and we can't do it without your support. There are many ways to support our young people at UUFCO through giving of your time and resources. We are going to need more support with our programming in the fall. Reach out to Amy if you're interested in learning about how you can grow with our young people. Now, please join us in singing number 164, Blue Boat Home, from Singing the Journey.
Making our way by the light of the heavens in our beautiful blue. sky, my sailor's home. I was born above the heavens, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue home.
If you have lit a chalice in your own home space, we invite you to extinguish that right now. All right. And we will say together our covenant of this fellowship. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. After after the dog gets done barking and our postlude, we invite you to stay for our coffee hour. We'll also put up a tile at the end of the service during our postlude that will offer a way for you to support the work of this church through an offering, either via text or through our website. And we're doing something a little different today for our breakout rooms. We are going to have a youth panel. So our youth are going to be with us, and we're going to be exploring these questions. What would be the title of your story? What is the story or book that have been meaningful to you in your life? And what do you think makes stories powerful? So we have an option today. If you'd like to be a part of that youth panel, that will just be in that main breakout room. And we're also going to have the opportunity, if you would like to have the more traditional breakout sessions that we do, to explore that middle question of what's a story that has been meaningful in your life. So you have the choice. If you'd like to join one of those breakout rooms, you can just click join breakout room, or if you stay in that main room, we're going to have our youth available in a youth panel, as well as our advisors as well. Thank you, youth. Thank you, youth. That was wonderful. It is wonderful. Thank you so much. We are so grateful to have you as a part of our congregation, and to listen to your voices, to listen to your words, and to lift that up for us all to hear. Grateful. So thank you.
Our closing words are by Reverend Sherry Woodbury. May we have the courage to speak or write the stories within us that need to be told, the stories that make up our lives. May we listen with a loving mind and heart to the stories of others' lives, others here in this church, others in our wider community and world. Let us choose with care the stories that we teach our children. Remember that all of our stories have power, and that all of our stories are connected, for all life is one. In the name of all that is sacred in these gathered hearts, may it be so. Go in peace.